My name is Gavin Whitley, and I did this project on my own, but I did get to interview uh, a coworker from my job at Target, who is originally from Pakistan, and her entire family moved here several years ago. Um, and what was They moved for financial reasons and for actually health reasons because one of her siblings needed intense medical care, and her father also got his education in Boston. Uh, but the but what is interesting to me is that even though they've moved here and been here several years, the religion of Islam and the culture of Pakistan is still so much ingrained in them, and it hasn't left them even in the slightest. Even though they do celebrate other holidays, maybe that we celebrate here in the United States, they're still very much a part of their culture in Pakistan, and I think that's because they still have so much family, and they come from a well-to-do family in Pakistan. A lot of their the heritage of the kind of work that their family does in that country is teachers and lawyers and doctors. And even college professors. So this is a very well-to-do family. They are Muslim, and they are Sunni Muslim, which is the most orthodox form of Islam, and it makes up about 90% of the Muslim population. So they it's actually interesting to talk to her about it because I've never met anyone who does the five pillars, but her family does the five pillars, and I didn't talk to her about how her family gives money, but her family prays 5 times a day. They go to mosque. They've even her family her mother and father have even participated, and even some of her uncles have even participated in Hajj, which is the pilgrimage to Mecca. And the only reason why the person I interviewed has not gone to Mecca is because one of the requirements of that is that you have to be free of debt before you go, and so she is not free of debt financially or maybe in some other way, and so she cannot go, and that is just a requirement of that. So one thing that was interesting is that one thing that was so interesting about her response, and this is just another testament to how ingrained Islam is into the culture, is that I asked her what are some special days that her and her family celebrate. And she did, once I poked a little bit, she did say, we celebrate birthdays and we celebrate Halloween. But Halloween was just her kid. I don't think any of her extended relatives celebrate Halloween. The but what was interesting is that they celebrate Eid, first and second Eid, and first and second Eid are two religious festivals that are a lot like Ramadan in that there's a lot of fasting, and you break fast at night and you break it with dates, and other religiously culturally significant food. And so but it's interesting what these two holidays represent. And the first one is that it represents the giving of the Quran, the revelation to Muhammad. But then the second is actually far more interesting to me and could actually be a connection that cross cultural workers could make with them, and that is that the second Eid actually celebrates the faithfulness of Abraham. Now, we know the faithfulness of Abraham to be that he was told to sacrifice his son Isaac, and he was willing to, and God did stay his hand, and he didn't sacrifice Isaac, but it was Isaac who was the sacrifice. Well, in the Islamic tradition, it is not Isaac; it is Ishmael, who it's basically verbatim the same story, but it's Ishmael instead of Isaac. And so that's an interesting connection point that I think could be used, although it may be difficult because they believe very strongly that it was Ishmael. And then The one thing that was interesting when she was describing the cities to me, the city where she's from originally, she's from the Punjab region, but she's from one of the major cities there. And one of the things that was interesting to me, she was describing it's a place that sounds very modern. There's even American restaurants in this city, and that was very interesting to me because it just shocked me. It shocked me because what I hear on the news or how I've heard people in the Middle East feel about the West, and so it was very odd to hear that. But beyond that, that could also create some stumbling blocks and some great launching off points for the cross-cultural worker, mainly the stumbling blocks being that if the country and the city in particular is so much like the United States, then the cross-cultural worker might be tempted to just hang out there and just be comfortable, and that could create some problems there because they're not becoming uncomfortable or stretching themselves and getting into a different culture as well as they could. And then the second way that it could prove to be a problem is that the invasion of modernism is not unknown to us and to the rest of the world. Wherever modernism in the West has kind of come in, the evidence is clear in the cities and the cars and the roads, and while these things can be good to an extent, it could also create resentment among the people. And so as soon as they see a face like mine or anyone from the West, they may be predisposed to not want to interact with them because of the already massive invasion of Western culture and Western thought. So that could be two. Even though Christianity is not a Western religion in its roots, it is seen that way, and so there's a lot of ground to be made, and there's a lot of things to be fought for in that sense.